If I asked you to show me your resume right now, you probably could. But if I asked you to show me your character, would you even know where to start? It's funny to me how we spend years polishing our professional credentials, but we rarely take the time to examine who we are beneath it all. Hey there, fellow travelers, and welcome to Get In You Are Driving, where we explore what it means to take the wheel in life's journey. I'm your host, Maria, and I want to share something with you that I think many times we forget, which is you have more control than you think. When you think about it, life is a lot like driving, from unexpected detours to sudden breakdowns and regular maintenance. And in this podcast, we will uncover and discuss the many lessons that being on the road can teach us. I always want to be the reminder to you that you get to choose your attitude, you get to choose your direction, and you get to choose your response. Sure, the road might get rough, and sometimes it may feel like life has thrown us into the passenger seat. But at the end of the day, this is one thing I know to be true. You are driving. And sometimes all you need is the courage to get in the car, start the engine, and drive day after day. Well, guys, welcome to our third episode in our Driver's Ed series. I'm so excited to be here. In our first episode, I really laid down why I'm here, why I wanted to start this podcast, what it will be about. In our second episode, we went super deep into truth seeking and why I really believe that it matters to live a fulfilled and intentional life. And today, we're going to talk about something else that I believe is absolutely fundamental, and which is why I included it in the Driver's Ed series. And that is, we are going to focus on who you are and not what you do. There's this quote that I've really loved up until this point, and it's from Martin Luther King Jr. And he said, life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? And I absolutely love that. It's always stuck with me. But I think before we can answer that question meaningfully, we need to address an even more fundamental one, and that is, who are you becoming? All right, so we're going to get into a lot about who we are today. But before we get into it, I just really wanted to quickly say thank you for being here if you're watching on the third podcast episode. I'm super excited. I really hope you've enjoyed the episodes thus far, and I hope that it's clear the direction that I have for this podcast. Thank you so much for choosing to spend your time here. So, okay, I want to go into the world's greatest deception, or at least how I have defined it to be. And like I said in my last podcast episode, do not take anything I say to face value. This is all things I want you to think about and dissect on, because I am not perfectly right. I'm figuring it out just as you are. So I want to throw that out there in all of my podcast episodes. Like, this is a journey personally for you. I just want to help you along the way. So, what is the world's greatest deception? Something that I've noticed is our world is very obsessed with the single question of, what do you do? Think about it. You encounter somebody new. Well, what do you do for work? You're on the boat. What do you do for work? Like, this question always comes up, and it's usually the first thing people ask you, but nobody really asks you, who are you and what kind of person are you becoming? Like, it really always is, what do you do? And I think a lot of us either feel very fulfilled by what we do or we don't. So I remember when I was 17, and it was around the time when I was applying for colleges, and everybody kept asking me, what are you going to do with your life? What are you going to do with your life? What are you going to do? Like, we've all been there, and it's very overwhelming. But nobody, and I really mean nobody, at least for me, ever asked me, who are you and who do you want to be? Again, we're all very focused on the destination of, like, what do we want to do, but we forget about who's actually sitting in the driver's seat of our life, and how who we are actually dictates what we do, and not so much vice versa. So this obsession with doing over being, I think it's like focusing on where your car is going without ever really checking under the hood. Because it's called Getting Your Driving, I like to make these car analogies. But yeah, the focus on that is never actually going beneath the surface and looking. And something that I really learned the hard way is knowing your destination only takes you so far. if you don't know who's behind the wheel. So I want to say that again. Knowing your destination only takes you so far if you don't know who's behind the wheel. So I want to ask you something to challenge you. If you had to describe who you are, but couldn't mention what you do for a living, what would you say? Really think on that for a second. Um, what qualities define you? What principles are guiding your decisions? What values do you perhaps refuse to compromise on? So, again, all food for thought, but I really, really want you to think about this. Um, it's a harder question than it may seem. But yeah, no accomplishments, nothing about your job, nothing about a certificate you have, nothing. It has to be about you. Again, we're so used to defining ourselves by our jobs and our accomplishments. And I do want to say, like, there are people that work so hard for their job and their accomplishments. And of course, that is something to be proud of. Absolutely. But I think if it's the entirety of your identity, I think that can be really problematic for many, many reasons. So, again, I just really want you to think about who you are at your core. Okay, so we just talked about what I think is the world's greatest deception, which is focusing on what we do versus who we are. And now I really want to get into the why because I'm very big on why. If you don't give me a why, I don't really care. So yeah, let's get into that. I apologize if I'm looking at my computer screen a lot. Again, my episodes are quite dense, but I think after some time I will get better. The problem is if I never choose to look at it, I will be here all day filming this. And I don't have that much time. So I want to get into character and what that means. So I'm going to read off the definition of character. Character, by definition, is the mental and moral qualities distinctive to an individual. So think about that for a moment. Your mental qualities probably will include things like how do you think? How do you process? How do you perceive the world around you? Your moral qualities would probably be something, what do you personally believe is right versus wrong? What do you value? What are lines in your life that you would cross or lines that you would never cross? And I know this might seem like very abstract traits and maybe something that you haven't thought about, but these things and how we view these things or how we feel about these things, they really are filters through which every decision in our life passes through. Because essentially, whatever your values are, they're going to determine how you'll react when life gets hard. They're going to determine how you treat other people when no one's watching, how you treat yourself, what opportunities in life you might take or refuse. And to me, again, whether we realize it or not, how we see the world affects every single decision we do. And that's why, to me, character isn't just who you are, it is genuinely what I believe to be the driving choice behind every decision that you make. And I think this is a very deep truth that not a lot of people are going to tell you when you're starting out is that when life gets very, very difficult, and oh, it will, it definitely will. It's really not your job title and the things that you've accomplished that are going to get you through it at all. Like, how is your certificate? How is your, what are those called? How is your PhD going to get you through something that is very difficult? So, again, it's not your job title that's going to get you through. It's not your bank account and your money. It's not your achievement. What's going to get you through difficult times is who you are. It's your character. Absolutely. So I want you to think about it like this. I'm going to use a storm and car analogy. But when you're driving through a storm, what matters most isn't your GPS coordinates or your planned arrival time. What matters is whether you've developed the skills and the judgment to navigate safely through the chaos, right? Because at that point, you're just trying to stay safe. You're not worried about when, how you want to stay safe. So, your character is what is going to determine how you handle the storms in your life. I think everybody understands this analogy, right? Like sometimes life and when you're going through something particularly difficult can literally feel like you're walking in this storm. Your character is going to decide how you handle the storm. It's going to decide whether you're going to keep your hands steady on the wheel. Because remember, You're still driving during a storm in your life, and it's going to determine what you do when everything in your life is spinning out of control. I want you to take what I'm about to say so incredibly seriously. So please think about it. And that is, you have to protect your character like your life depends on it. You have to protect your character like your life depends on it. Maybe this isn't the absolute best analogy, but I want you to think of it like the engine in your car. Because again, driving podcast, so I'm trying to make the all the comparisons and metaphors to that. But everything you do, every decision you make, every reaction you have, it all flows from your core, from who you are at your deepest level. So if you let negativity, bitterness, resentment, malevolence, whatever it may be, seep in, it's like letting contaminated fuel into your engine. And eventually, that contaminated fuel is going to affect everything. So, again, I really want you to think about it because I say this with so much sincerity. Um, just like you wouldn't knowingly put bad gas, bad gas in your car, right? You need your car essentially to do things in life. Why would you let toxic influences corrupt your character? You really need to be so vigilant about what you allow to affect you, whether that is people, whether that is your job, whether that is social media, whether that is a TV show, whether that is things like pornography. Like, what is affecting you deep down? Because essentially what's affecting you is you're allowing that to permit and shape your responses of how you react to life. And ultimately, whether you realize it or not, these things that are affecting you are influencing your actions. Because at the end of the day, guys, I want you to remember the quality of who you are determines the quality of everything you do. So hopefully, I just made you think why you should focus on character and why it's so important, because genuinely, it's going to dictate everything else in your life. Hopefully, by this point, I have your wheels spinning. Okay, so I want to share something personal with you now about like my character development journey. So a few years ago, I decided to do something that might sound a bit strange. Um, I took it very seriously about 2 years ago, but it's something I want you to implement because I think it's really going to help you on this character journey. And what I did was I started treating myself like a complete stranger. What do you mean, Maria? So, what I started doing was I started really observing myself as if I was meeting myself for the first time. This is the thing. I think we all know humans are incredibly complex, including ourselves. And much of the time, we don't even understand ourselves a lot. Like, at least that's a real reality for me. And I think so much of how we react to life, how we treat others, how we handle difficult situations, it all goes back to things we might not be conscious of. Are whether that be unresolved feelings, maybe a past hurt, trauma, unprocessed emotions due to an experience, all that lingers there. And I really believe it influences everything we do. But if we don't take care of it, it's still affecting us in some way. So, again, this is all me sharing my personal experiences with you, what I have come to understand. I'm not saying this is the ultimate truth, and you have to think about all this for yourself. But something that I think I've really learned and I find absolutely fascinating, and I've listened to a lot of podcasts about this, is our subconscious mind is constantly trying to communicate with us. Maybe you're not somebody that thinks about this a lot. I think about it a ton. And I will say, so, when you get triggered by something that seems small, but your reaction feels a lot bigger than the situation deserves? I think that's our subconscious speaking to us. Those moments when certain situations make you like inexplicably uncomfortable or anxious, again, I think that's your subconscious telling you, hey, This reaction, why you feel this way, it needs attention. I personally even believe dreams can be powerful messengers. I know some people don't think that. Perfectly okay, but when we sleep, I think it's allows our conscious mind to take a step back, right? Cuz we're asleep. We're peaceful. But I think this is when our subconscious takes the wheel. Because this is when only uh, I think our conscious is fully out of the way and allowing our subconscious to speak to us in a way it could before. Because I think it's like our brain's way of processing maybe something that we've been avoiding or we're not fully aware of during our waking outer hours because the brain's primary job is to block out and shield us from pain. Um I don't think dreams are random. I think they can be stories. I think they can be our subconscious speaking to us, in my opinion. And I think that they can often give us a glimpse of what we need to work on, what might be hurting us, what we need to heal from, what we need to face. I know that I never took my dreams seriously and I absolutely couldn't stand them because I tend to only dream in nightmares. I really can't think of one pleasant dream I've ever had. And when I started realizing that my dreams were actually my deepest fears, I was like, "Oh, maybe I should pay attention to that." So I don't know if that's you, but I really do think dreams are powerful, and I know there's been scientific studies on this. I do not have any to cite. I will say that. That's why I want to tell you, this is all my opinions. This is all what I've garnered, but if this is something that intrigues you, you think is true, you're interested in it, please go do the research because I do know it's out there, and I've listened to podcasts with scientists on it, but to be honest, I didn't save them. So, all right. So, dreams and them showing us what we might need to face. Think about it like this. If you got into a car that was making strange noises, wouldn't you want to figure out what's causing them? Now, the men might be like, no, I don't care. But the women will be like, absolutely, I don't want to be stuck on the side of the road. At least that's how I feel when my car makes noises. And again, I can only speak for myself, but yeah, when my car is making noises, I want to get to the bottom of it. What is wrong? Well, I think that our reactions, our triggers, our patterns, they are akin to and can be compared to the strange noises that our car is making. They're telling us something needs attention. So, I really think that when you start treating yourself like a stranger, you're going to begin to notice these patterns within yourself. You're going to start catching moments that make you feel very triggered. You're going to start to begin to understand that sometimes the way we react to things in the present has more to do with our past and perhaps pain than we realize. And most importantly, when you really start paying attention to yourself, you're going to be able to understand slowly what's wrong. And I really think you're going to be able to take steps to heal. So, really be authentic about this. I know that in the beginning, I wasn't authentic about it, and I would kind of be like, oh, but that's not a big deal. I don't want this to be about judging yourself. I want this to be about understanding yourself. Because it's about recognizing that if we want to become who we're meant to be, build our character, we first need to understand who we are and why we do the things that we do. Because here's the truth, you can't heal what you don't acknowledge, and you can't change what you don't understand. And hopefully, if you're here and if you're listening to this, you want to do this because you don't want to be stuck with toxic patterns and perceptions for the rest of your life. So I want you to think about it like this. By studying ourselves with the curiosity and compassion that we may offer a stranger or maybe somebody you might be very interested in getting to know, we can start to heal and we can start to see where we may need to grow, where we may need to let go of old hurts that are hurting us back. I know there's some people that say, well, you need to move forward and not forget about and like not think about the past. I personally don't agree with that because at least out of my own experience, my past was very much so affecting my future. Now, I'm not saying you need to go dig into your garden and stay there, but I do think you probably are going to have to address a lot of things from the past, things that have hurt you. And overall, I think this is like doing a thorough inspection of your vehicle and don't criticize it. Don't criticize yourself. Like, be graceful during this period. And again, realize that this is about understanding what needs attention inside of you so that you can become a better person. And again, we put so much attention into other aspects of our life: money, job, skill set, health. However, I think the biggest disservice we are doing ourselves is not paying attention to who we are. And this is going to be a process throughout your life that never ends. That's why I love to say you get in the car day after day. This is not one decision. This is thousands of decisions over your lifetime. And it's going to be a process of self discovery, of understanding your story, who you are. And I really think it's going to be the bridge between who you are now and who you want to become. Okay, so I'm a very practical, actionable step girl. But before I get into how to take everything that I've said thus far and apply it to your life and actually make it actionable, I want to talk about something that really changed how I think about personal development and character. So again, I've said it before, but we do invest a lot of time in things that we care about. Fair enough, right? Whether that's your job, your physical health, your relationships. But again, I think we just forget so much about our character. And whether we realize it or not, it really is who we are at our core. And like I said before, I really think it's the driving decision behind everything in our life. Um, Something that I realized, I was listening to a podcast because that's really all I do. And I had this really amazing moment of clarity, and it really changed my mindset on this. It was a podcast by Grace Beverly, Working Hard, Hardly Working. Love her. And she had someone on called Robin Sharma. And he started to begin to discuss something called the 8 forms of wealth. He developed it. And I was thinking, oh, 8 forms of wealth. So intriguing. I'm sure like money is the top, right? And it stopped me in my tracks because he said the number one form of wealth, guess what it was? Personal development. I think I stared at the graph for like 5 minutes because up until that point in my life, I was fully judging myself based off of how much money I could make. That was very personal to me. Literally, I could not believe money was not at the top. I could not believe money was at the top. And I'm actually going to put up on my YouTube video what the actual uh, the 8 forms were. And money was, I think, fifth. Health was up there, relationships were up there, but money was like way down there. So let that sink in because I don't know about you, but that really shocked me. So again, so many of us are measuring our worth by how much money we make, our achievements, what people say about us, external success. But I really loved his perspective because it just it made me realize like what really mattered. Like think about it. Back to the car analogy, like you can have a beautiful car on the exterior, paint job, nice tires, whatever. But what if your engine is crap? Like then the car is not going anywhere. And I really think it goes back to this whole thing about like your character just matters so much. And I never realized that I had this backwards, or at least this is what I believe to be true. Because think about it, like, again, we just spend so much time on all these other things, but the driving force is who we are. I really think if we take time to develop our character and understanding ourselves, I think this is when we can reach our full potential as human beings. And I think what we're trying to do, whether we realize it or not, is we're trying to win a race by making our car look fantastic. And I think a lot of this is because of social media, right? Like the fact that you can now compare your life as, let's take myself, a 25-year-old, and compare it to all the 25 out year olds, sorry, most 25-year-olds in the world. That's insane. 30 years ago, you didn't know what a 25-year-old was doing in Seattle. You didn't know what a 25-year-old was doing in Brisbane, Australia. Now you do. And that also does not help because that just makes us feel so behind. Here's the truth at the end of the day. I'm not going to rant on this too much. I think you guys are getting my point to pay attention to character, but you can really have, to use a car analogy, the most beautiful car. But if the engine isn't sound, and it's not working, you're not going to get far and you're not going to get through the storms. So again, that's why before I wanted to dive into the practical steps of character development, I really, really want to just keep hitting on this of how important character is because I want you to understand what's at stake. This is serious. You may think it's not, but it is. So, again, it's not just this self improvement exercise, it's really about building and maintaining the engine of your car that's going to power your journey through life. So, yeah, now let's get into these practical steps that you can take. I'm going to call this the driver's self inspection and your internal engine plus practical application since we're here comparing ourselves to cars and the road. And again, I just am going to share for you what has worked for me, what I do. This is a very personal journey. Again, always think about what I tell you. Don't just take it at face value because I am always on this journey. But let's get really practical because just like your car needs regular maintenance, so does your character need consistent attention. So I want to share with you 6 crucial points of checking your internal engine. And again, think of your character as a maintenance checklist, something you can return to again and again to ensure that you are operating at your best and optimal self. Okay, so we're going to have 6 points to check your internal engine. The first point is going to be self reflection through action. I don't want to compare everything to the car, but think of it like checking your oil. What are patterns you see in your behavior? How do you act when no one's watching? These really are the true indicators of your character's health. I don't think there's anything more important than who you are when no one's watching. For example, something small. Do you return the shopping cart when no one's looking? Do you hold the door for others even when you're in a hurry? Do you treat people well in small contexts when you're having a terrible day? Because these might seem like really small actions, but they're very big truths about who you are. And I think one of the biggest truths about who you are is how you treat people when you are in pain. So, 3 things that you can do here concretely. Examine the patterns of your behavior, not just isolated incidents. 2, look at how you act when no one is watching. And 3, notice what you do automatically without thinking. So, that's self reflection through action. Now, I want to get into the power of words. I think words carry so much power because essentially, somebody is not only going to show you, but they're going to tell you who they are. And you can learn so much about somebody by just listening to them. So let's compare it to your vehicle's exhaust. They reveal what's going on the inside. And how do you talk to yourself and even others is very important, but very much so how you talk to yourself. What is your internal dialogue like? What stories are you telling yourself about your relationships, about your life? Do you catch yourself being gossiping a lot? Maybe with a coworker? Do you catch yourself talking very critically about yourself a lot? I really think these verbal patterns are so important to think about because they're like smoke signals from your internal engine. Again, everything's about the car. So, yeah, words have a lot of power because they really reveal how you feel about yourself. So, 3 things to do here. Pay attention to how you talk about others when they're not present. I'm going to repeat that one. Pay attention to how you talk about others when they're not present. Notice your internal dialogue, self talk, the stories you're telling yourself. And 3, consider whether your words build up or tear down other people. All right, we did self reflection through actions, power of words. Number 3, thought patterns. You are what you think. Let's say this is your timing belt. What occupies your mind throughout the day? What are you thinking about when your mind goes quiet? Are you thinking about everything? Probably if you're a female. Are you thinking about nothing if you're a male? Because apparently men think about nothing. Fascinating. That's another time. Wait, I have to say this. I was with my friend and she sent me a book and it said, Women are spaghetti, men are like waffles. Just think about that. Okay, back to the point. Thought patterns. Are you bleh. Are your thoughts focused on growth and improvement, or are they stuck in like neutral? Are they all anxious? Are they all pessimistic thoughts? Are they bitter thoughts? When you're driving alone, again, if we use a driving analogy, are you planning ways to grow in your thoughts? Like, are you thinking about your goals, or are you thinking about how the world is cruel, how it did you dirty, how no one loves you? Because again, this is really going to show you your current emotional state. And also, your thoughts and emotions are your realist reality. So you really need to think about this here. So, three things to do. One, what occupies your mind during quiet moments? Two, what do you spend time thinking about and planning? And three, are your thoughts focused on growth and improvement? All right, moving right along to numero cuatro. Andiamo. Okay, so relationship assessment. So I'm not going to do any more car analogies, even though I still have some. But I want you to think about, are your relationships balanced? Do they help you stay on course with what you want to do? Or are they holding you back? Okay, I am going to use a car analogy. Sorry. But just like a misaligned wheel can gradually pull your car off course, the wrong relationships can slowly pull you away from who you want to become. This is a really brutal truth, but guys, it really is true. Who you are also who you hang out with, whether you think this or not, is the deepest reflection of who you are. So, here are three things to do. Look at who you choose to spend your close time with. Consider how you influence others or how they are influencing you, and examine whether your relationships bring out the best of you and the qualities you have and encourage you to grow, or if they do the opposite, or if they're tearing you down, making you feel bad about yourself. I really want to say this about friendship. True friendship, people should be there for you no matter what, and they should want the best for you. It shouldn't be a competition. They shouldn't be doing things on the side. So, food for thought there. Also, this can apply to romantic things as well. All right, number 5, response to challenges. All right, think of I do have to do car analogies. I'm sorry. Um, so think about your response to challenges as your shock absorption system. I want to say I had AI help me with the car analogies. I genuinely hope cars have a shock absorption system. If not, I'm going to sound like a total fool right now. And if there's a mechanic here, you make fun of me. But AI said this is true. Okay. So, how do you handle the bumps in your road? Do difficulties in your life make you bitter? Do they make you better? When someone lets oh, this is such a good one. When someone cuts you off in traffic, do you let it ruin your whole day? This is so real. So again, your response to life's inevitable challenges shows the true condition of your character. I'm going to say that again. Your response to life's inevitable challenges shows your character. So again, I really want you to think about these three things that I'm going to give you. So here are your action steps. How do you handle unexpected setbacks in your life? What's your typical reaction to criticism? And I think really most importantly, do difficulties in your life make you bitter or do they make you better? Alrighty, guys, we're moving on along to the 6th driver's self-inspection. And this one is values in action. So let's consider this your fuel quality check. Are the things you're doing daily, um, so yeah, are your daily choices running on your premium values or are you cutting corners with what's convenient? This goes back to the truth episode. Only you can answer this question for yourself truthfully. Um, let's say if you say family, okay, so for example, if you say family is your priority, but you are constantly choosing work over family time, then there is a misalignment there that needs attention. That's one example. Another one could be, let's say you really want to get healthier, but none of your actions are you going to the gym, you cutting out certain foods you know aren't good for you, whatever. There can't be a misalignment with the action. You have to say what you're going to do. So here are 3 things to do. Are your daily choices aligned with your stated values? Are your daily choices aligned with your goals? Do your priorities match what you claim is important to you? And I have a fourth one. How do you handle ethical dilemmas? So that one is a bit more food for thought. So these were the 6 things to do for your driver's inspection. And I really think that this is a good way to get you started on your character development journey because it really is something you have to implement every single day. And I really think if you look at these 6 different things, it's just a great way to get started. Okay, so what I want to do now is I want to bring everything together of what we talked about. We're almost done. And I want to talk about how this is a daily journey of growth. So I want to make it very clear. These 6 points of inspection that I just talked about are not a one time check. They are ongoing and they are maintenance for your character. And again, I know I use car analogies, but it really is true. Your car has to go to maintenance. It has to. Now, with your car, let's say you neglect all the maintenance and you get a new one. Yeah, you can't do that with yourself. There is no new one coming. So I just want to make it super clear like, this is an ongoing thing. This is a daily decision. It never stops. We're always growing. Um, and I also really want to remind you that every morning when you wake up, you have a choice. Will you take the time to check your internal engine, aka work on your character? And will you keep on making the adjustments to keep growing? So, again, just like you wouldn't wait for your car to break down or to check the oil, I don't want you to wait for a crisis to have to examine your character because then you haven't built any up and you're probably, really going to struggle. So, again, make these regular habits. Maybe you focus on one area of the 6 things that I told you, and then you go on to another because I know a lot could be overwhelming to do all at once, but at least pick one or two to be working on actively. So, the goal is not perfection, the goal is progress. And don't despise small beginnings. I think we do that so much. We feel like one little step towards where we're getting is so pathetic. No, that's the most important step. So even if you feel like, oh my gosh, I have a lot of work to do, that's okay. Slowly you will get there 1% better every day. Because again, you're not looking to become somebody else. You're working to become the best version of yourself. So, going back to what Martin Luther King said about life's most persistent and urgent question being, what are you doing for others? I really love that. And I think that's so beautiful. But, like I said in the beginning, I really believe that before we can answer that question well, we have to look at ourselves and we have to constantly be working on who we are because I think a lot of people know too that if we don't show up as our best selves for us, we can't show up for our best selves for other people. So, again, constantly be working on who you're becoming because the beautiful thing about when you do maintenance is that unlike a car, because of course we have to do maintenance on our car, which eventually, wear out, we have to get rid of them, we have to get new ones, your character is always going to be able to continue to grow stronger throughout your entire life. Every single check, every single adjustment you do, every moment of attention that you give your character and growing it builds something lasting and something that is really going to carry you through life's toughest moments. And I really believe too that when we work on our character and who we are, the stronger our character becomes, the more impact you can have on other people, on the world around you, in your own little sphere of influence. Because I really believe that if you do this, you're going to be better equipped to answer what I do think is such an amazing question that Martin Luther King posted, which was, what are you doing for the world around you? But before we get into the world around us, we need to get to ourselves. So, just some closing thoughts as we wrap up today's episodes. I want to leave with you this. Your character isn't just who you are. It's the vehicle that carries you through life's journey. Every day you have the choice to strengthen it, to maintain it, and to grow it. So don't fall into the trap. Don't let the world fool you that everything is about what you do. Because really, at the end of the road and when your life is ending, people aren't going to remember what you did or how much money you made. They're going to remember how you made them feel. They're going to what they say about you is only going to be related to your character. So yeah, really think about the long run with this. All right. So thank you guys so much for being here. Next time and in our next episode, which will be the fourth episode of this series, we're going to talk about how to live an intentional life because intentional is probably my favorite word because once you know who's driving, me and you need to know how to drive with purpose and intention. So until then, keep seeking the truth, stay curious, and remember you're the one driving your car. All you need is the courage to start your engine and get in there day after day. And again, please don't forget to be here for next week's episode. So excited. Bye, guys.